Hello, I'm Lydia and you're listening to Lens from the Fens. Hello everyone, welcome back to Lens from the Fens with me, Lydia. So I know it's been a while since I last posted an episode for you, but that's basically because I haven't been able to get out as much as I want to, and I just thought I didn't want to just create any sort of content. I wanted to actually provide content which is in line with what Lens from the Fens is all about. So with this episode, I'm going to talk a bit about what I have been experiencing in the last year and what this podcast has provided me and you, the listener, with, and what you'll expect to be happening now that spring is almost here and the sorts of wildlife that we'll be able to see in the UK. So even going into March, there's already been signs of spring emerging in all sorts of places. Things like snowdrops have been quite abundant. They are sort of the first flower that you get to see when we start to emerge from winter going into spring, so that's been really nice to see. Daffodils have been lining streets and roads and also in gardens, and slowly but steadily more wildlife is starting to emerge from their winter slumber. One of the most obvious species to be emerging would be that of hedgehogs. So it is around the end of February into March where the weather is a lot milder and they will be starting to emerge from their hibernation state. So they will be really hungry and they will be really thirsty. So if you have a garden, if it be a small one or a large one, and you have space to put hedgehog food out, then I would highly recommend you doing that now. Because, as I said, they would have lost an awful lot of weight during hibernation, so they'll be very hungry, and also make sure to put out some water for them, because again, they will be looking for food, they'll be looking for water to help sustain themselves and get their body weight back up when they'll be starting to find another hibernation nest again for later this year. Another mammal species that a lot of you will be familiar with for the month of March would be hares. So they are a daily sight for me, especially around when I've been travelling to work and there's farmers' fields on either side of the road. I've parked up a couple of times now in the last week or so. I've been watching a group of about 5 or 6 chase each other, and that is in the run-up to March Madness. I find them really impressive animals. You can definitely pick them out, even when they appear quite well camouflaged against fields where there's nothing growing on them and it's just mud. They can be, as I said, quite well camouflaged when they're hunched down and their ears aren't standing up. But when you see them run and like sizing each other up, then you really get the feel of how big these hares are. So yeah, that's been really fun to see. So in terms of bird species, a lot of our winter migrants, such as widgeon, goosanders and dark-bellied brent geese, will soon be returning to their breeding grounds for the summer. But in turn, that means that we will soon be expecting the summer migrants to arrive. These include the obvious ones such as house martins, swifts and swallows. They are the most recognisable visitors. But there's also the family of warblers, such as whitethroats, willow warblers, and there's also the ever-charming but also ever-declining cuckoos and turtle doves that are expected to arrive from about April onwards. Just to alter the subject slightly, speaking of turtle doves, I have actually applied to conduct a survey close to where I live later on in the year, just to see what the distribution of turtle doves around my area is like, or whether it's been increasing in number or decreasing in number. So that is alongside the charity RSPB. It is their RSPB Science, who shared a post not so long ago asking for volunteers who want to apply for an area either close to them or a little bit further from home if one closer isn't available. Once you sign up, you will then in a few weeks get more details about how you are expected to conduct the survey, how to record where and when you see turtle doves, how many you've seen. So you are more than welcome to go and find that out. If you visit Twitter and look up under RSPB Science, then there will be a post on their newsfeed providing a link to finding the map where you can click on the square. And in time they will contact you closer towards May time, where you'll be asked to, again, they'll provide all the information for you because I haven't received it myself yet, but they will provide the information and give you the tools you need to conduct this survey of turtle doves in your area. So feel free to check that out. I'm quite excited with it. I haven't done any kind of survey like this before, and it's all as part of volunteering scientific studies, wanting to know more about how our wildlife has been declining in the UK, or whether there has actually been an upside and that they are actually increasing in number in certain places across the UK. So as most of you already know, with my work I often photograph resident species of bird that are really common, such as house sparrows, blue tits, great tits, etc. And it's mainly because I have quite a limited window when the summer migrants visit to find them and photograph them. I've heard them, but I haven't had that much luck seeing things like cuckoos. I heard them an awful lot last year, especially when I was recording my first walk, talk and shoots. But I'd like to think that, especially this summer, I will be able to travel to spots in and around the Fens where there has been more sightings of them rather than just hearing summer migrant birds, and hopefully get those images of these visiting species. Again, with wildlife, you have no idea what's going to happen, whether they will show for you or whether they just won't appear at all. But I will remain optimistic, as I always do when I do wildlife photography, because you may not find the subject you want to photograph, but there's always a chance that something will come along and you will actually get, hopefully, an amazing image or set of images out of it. Another sign that spring is definitely on its way, that I've seen in a lot of local community posts and images, is that of frog spawn. So I don't have immediate access to a pond in my garden or anywhere very close to me, but my grandparents, they have a small pond in their garden, and they already have quite a number of frogs turning up and just relaxing either in the pond or outside of the pond. And obviously with that, you'll eventually see frog spawn appearing in multitudes, in like huge numbers. So it's been very nice to see either family and friends sharing videos of frogs just crowding all around in their ponds. So it's a thing that I think a lot of people often forget about, like when frogs come to spawn, and then like the whole life cycle of tadpoles turning into froglets, etc. So if you do have a pond, or you are thinking about installing a pond either on your own land or garden, then I'd highly recommend setting it up, because you can watch life in the pond across the year, and it's just something that is a very nice sight to see. I'm not a huge fan of frogs, but I think from especially a younger age, when you're introduced to them during school projects, it just becomes ingrained in your head that you know what the life cycle is of either common frogs or toads in the UK. So leading off from sights and sounds of spring that are coming to the UK, I just wanted to take a little time to reflect back on what the last 12 months have been like, not just for myself, but for the whole world, pretty much. And I've come to be really grateful for having the opportunities to photograph wildlife, both within different locations around the UK, as well as wildlife that I get to see closer to home. it's made me feel really lucky in a way to live in quite a remote area of the Fens, that I get to see hares running across fields, and there's deer, there's red kites that fly over my house every day, and like not having the opportunity to go out with my camera has had an impact, just not just in a creative way, but to think that I sort of not had as much opportunity to go out with my camera as I would wanted to last year. It's just made me feel really grateful for remembering all the memories and experiences I've had previously and what I can expect to do, hopefully, in the upcoming year, this year. Creating this podcast has allowed me to share my knowledge and my experiences when photographing wildlife, and it has also given me the chance to really focus on what I want to achieve in my work, rather than, as I said many times before, going out photographing whatever flies in front of me, or just photographing something just so I got that picture. I never planned much of what images I want to get. So this whole pandemic and taking the time to visit places and actually plan what I want to photograph has definitely become more instilled in me in this last year, and it's something I can hopefully continue to instill going into this year, going into summer, and hopefully having the chance to visit places where there's a good chance of photographing a species that I otherwise wouldn't really have the chance to see if I didn't plan it out. So with that, I'm very pleased to say that I will be conducting another walk, talk and shoot episode in the very near future. And this has come around simply because the new England guidelines have allowed at least 2 people to meet up outdoors recreationally, so having like a cup of coffee on the bench sort of thing. And along the lines of that, I feel as though I could be more comfortable with going out by myself with my camera. I'll obviously be sticking local, not travelling very far at all, but I feel as though I would be much more comfortable going out with my camera because it is like a recreational activity. I have a location in mind, I have a subject in mind that I would like the opportunity to photograph, and I've also taken the time to actually think about what image I would like to get from this walk. So now, obviously, it will mainly be down to whether this subject makes an appearance at all, but having the opportunity to go out again, to have my microphone attached while using my camera, just being outdoors again is it will be a real pleasure in itself, as I have genuinely missed doing live recordings for this podcast, having the chance to talk a bit more openly about what I've been doing, what I've been feeling, and obviously in terms of how I've been approaching my photographic work. So I've roughly worked out how long I have actually been planning and recording this podcast for, and it is actually coming up to a year now, when obviously lockdown first happened, and I was in a state of just uncertainty, a bit of anxiety, because I didn't know. It was a fear of the unknown, basically, and I felt as though I wouldn't be able to obviously do the normal things that we do on a daily basis, and it did have a little bit of an impact on me, just thinking about what can I do in this time. I can't go out and photograph as much as I want to, or hardly at all. And that was when the idea for a podcast came around, because I could still be able to share my knowledge and my work through audio, and just be able to stay in contact with the people who follow my work, or people who have only recently discovered me and my work. So yeah, I even have the notes in front of me from when I first was planning out a name, what the podcast would be about and what I could talk about. So yeah, it's weird to look back and think this whole year, obviously so much has happened in this last year, not just in terms of pandemic, but in terms of just events in general that have had an impact on so many people. I won't go into too much detail, but like the murder of George Floyd, how there's been just so many inequalities showing in different parts of workspace and just places in general in the public. So there's been an awful lot happening throughout the last year, which has impacted us, if not one way, then multiple ways. So just having the opportunity to, again, reach people with my passion and with my interest for wildlife, for my interest in where I live, it's been a nice experience. It's been nice to talk. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going out again with my camera. With the projects I have in mind, I feel as though there's a better chance of me doing them, if not in the very near future, then definitely within, half a year's time. So I just want to thank you very much for joining me on this journey, whether you've been there from the very start, back in last March, April time, or if you just only found me in the last month or so. I really appreciate those who have been on this journey with me, who have either learned something new or have been wanting to connect with someone who shares a similar interest in photography or in wildlife. And I've just looked at my stats of my podcast in terms of how many people have been reached or how many downloads have been made, and I'm nearing 1,000 downloads. It may not seem like a huge number, but it is a significant number to me. So thank you all really from the bottom of my heart. For those of you who have listened even just to one episode, it's another pair of ears that has listened to this podcast. So yeah, thank you. That's all I can really say, just to round off this episode with. So I have a walk, talk and shoot episode in mind. I do have a date in mind that I would like to go out and conduct this recording for you. It would just be, I will just play by ear as to when that episode will be released. So it's not going to be like months away, I'll promise you that. It's just working out some things personally, and I would obviously want it to be it'll be my first walk, talk and shoot episode of the year, or at least one where I'm feeling more comfortable with going out and doing this recording for you. So it will be coming, don't worry. There will be, the next episode will be the walk, talk and shoot. And yeah, just until then, thank you so much again for listening. And as always, if you want to view my photographic work as images rather than me talking about them, that is through my Pinfold Photographic. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I am on my own website, which is pinfold-photographic.co.uk. I do have a future blog in mind that I want to post again for another, just a story about a photo that I took either a few months ago or a few years ago. I do have that in the pipeline for you. So feel free to check that out. And thank you so much again for listening in to Lens on the Fens. I will speak to you all again in the not too distant future. Goodbye for now. My podcast cover shows my own image created using Canva. The theme music is provided by Purple Planet Music. Check out their royalty-free music at purple-planet.com.